Hello, everyone, and welcome to this course from Metapilot Academy. I'm Dana, I'm the founder of the Academy, and this is just an overview of the recent AI agent Microcredentials that we launched, which I'm very excited to share with you guys. And of course, just kind of catching up on what the Academy is, how it works, all of that. Let's see if I can get you to see this. So if I move here. Hmm. Yeah, it looks like you'll be able to see it. All right, I won't be able to see myself, but I'll just start anyways. I think you're gonna see both. So much fun. Um, right, so you remember what the Academy is about, and it started out as an MBA with a technical part. There are options to do other courses on the side, including flight school. We use AI quite a bit. So there's an AI career coach in it, a business incubator, and most importantly, it is able to choose from a pool of 50,000 people and connect you to the right people at the right time as you develop a deeper understanding of what you want to do in your career and how you want to do it, and then start developing your project, get some real traction, and then start to connect with people. This is also based on my experience. So I've been in academia a long time. I did my PhD in neuroscience and then postdoc, second postdoc. And then I decided to launch the company 5 years ago. And I realized I don't know anyone that will help me understand how this works. There was no one that could direct me towards what I needed to learn, how to build a company, how to speak to investors, how to speak to OEMs, how to search for product market fit. So all of these things I had to learn alone. And if I look back at the last 15 years of my career, I think I would have literally killed to have someone tell me within 1 year to train me how to do all these things effectively. And then so the reason why we don't have necessarily academic professors or consultants doing the teaching is because I think that people should learn from the actual decision makers. So we look at the people in leadership positions across top OEMs, across tech at this point. So we started with aerospace, defense, mobility, space, but now it's going into robotics. It's going into pretty much every tech company, and by now most companies use tech to some extent. We'll be talking about that as well. The philosophy behind it is the defense funding, now at 4 trillion across the US and EU. A lot of the funding coming from the GCC region, in liquidity towards investment into AI data centers, defense. But at the same time, what we've seen, and this is where the AI agent micro credentials come in, and I invite a discussion on that. Thousands of tech jobs have been replaced last quarter, and people are being very honest about the reason. And it is related to knowledge around AI and AI agent, agentic AI, as they call it, or assistive AI, as we would call it. This week, I believe Nestle, a non tech company, announced firing 16,000 employees due to that. Accenture fired 11,000, and they issued a warning on learning about AI agents to the rest of the company. Microsoft, 25,000. Intel, I believe 15,000. Might be off a little bit by with these numbers, but they should be pretty much accurate. And this doesn't apply anymore to just programmers or people in marketing or people that need to execute on technology. It applies to executives, managers, pretty much everyone in the company, not just in tech companies anymore, as mentioned, but also in non-tech companies, because they are all tech companies now. And it's interesting to think about this, because what does that mean? A lot of people are naturally concerned, as they would be very often. Management of these companies that we discussed in the previous talk with Dana, they didn't exactly warn these people. They weren't giving them an option to learn or upskill within the last 6 months or 1 year. Rather, the change has been quite abrupt. So it wasn't like these people were refusing to learn or upskill. On the contrary, when these things happen in the industry, people are going to try to find the right course. They will often run to some brands that they know, which is an advantage in our case, but also different companies work with different universities, and often universities profit from that because they're not necessarily focused on getting these people in lifelong careers. Rather, they're interested in collecting their fees. So this is why we came up with this program. The reason why we work so closely with the HR departments of all these companies is because we're trying to make sure that these people actually get hired. And this is again based on my own experience, but also that of many of the people on the board. So we operate from this duty to the future perspective that I mentioned. And so the silver lining is if you have certain skills that you've acquired over the years, I think it's very clear in the case of engineers, medical doctors, people with a programming background, people with real sales skills, people with real leadership skills that cannot be replaced. Then these courses will come in as complementary and very useful because it will increase your already existing productivity, and it will make you even less replaceable than you already are. That said, people that haven't developed these skills, that were relying on very repetitive tasks, will have to upskill very quickly on this and just be honest about, try to put themselves in the position of the manager and realize, okay, if ChatGPT can do all of these things that I was previously doing manually, then I need to be able to do something that they cannot, right? It's just as I was talking to Dana last time, the human species has been evolving for millions of years to be a very strong predator. I am certain that AI agents are not going to be something that will stand in our way. I think people can be quite resilient mentally also, so this shouldn't be too much of a problem. So we're talking about the market. Obviously, there's going to be more teleoperation from the ground. A good example is the mobility field. People were certain when Tesla came out that we will have level 5 autonomy within a year or so. A lot of these statements were also marketing driven. We do not have level 5 autonomy now. We do not have full autonomy of cars or robots or anything of that kind. The term AGI has been used very loosely. So still, humans need to teleoperate things. Rather than level 5 autonomy, we have level 4, and we have assistive driving. So ADAS in most cars, new models now, where let's say when you're backing up with the car, you have like a beep, but at the end of the day, you still kind of have to take the wheel. We look forward to seeing what's next, mobility and aerospace, and there have been announcements, but keep in mind within the problem space that these robots or machines were given, the demonstrations that are offered to the public are made within a very narrow space, right? So when you take that agent and put it in a completely new environment, this is when we will know whether it is in fact autonomous or not. So teleoperation from the ground, I digress. There's going to be a lot of data, and we're going to talk about data and what that does with AI agents, and then there's going to be a lot of data marketing and analysis. And of course, there will be pilots, as there will be doctors, lawyers, engineers, all of that. So the way we work is we work with recruiters from different companies. Our company did get some Boeing funding, but then we got other types of funding as well. Meanwhile, through our simulation platform, we closed some government contracts as well and looking to expand. So here, let's say Thales comes in and says, I want to see more flight training and I want to have the synthetic data taken out of there. And this is where we're going to open at least 100 positions in the next few years. So we work with those people to integrate that into the curriculum and help them through the data that we generate in the program about these people's performance, their behavior, etc. These people will be a very good choice for them. It's not guaranteed that they will be hired, but they will be a much better choice than say someone who just applied on LinkedIn, right? So now you start to understand what Meta is in Metapilot. So yeah, a bit of the leadership. So we work with quite a few people that I personally think are stellar, very, very inspiring people that happen to be working with large OEMs. It's definitely the person leading the project. So someone from Boeing, Stellantis, US Air Force, Gabe, Fred, and there are a lot more that are definitely worth mentioning. Dana, um, Jason, a lot of other people that deserve mentioning. Unfortunately, with 50,000 people in our network of mentors, we cannot mention everyone, but I will try to do this more often, and some of them you'll be seeing in next masterclasses. We have a team here in Barcelona. There's myself. I'm a neuroscientist. I teach neuroscience. I teach VR here in Barcelona, and also dealing with the academy. And I also edit the neurotechnology journal at Cambridge University Press. What else? Going back to the MBA, those of you that knew about it, there's the academy part where, okay, it's a 1-year online MBA program. You log into it directly from the website. And let's say you studied engineering and really want to get into aerospace, or you want to work with BMW or anything along those lines. The cool thing is a lot of the curriculum is self-paced and online, meaning that you can do it while you have a job, which is great for some students, right? And then the second part is there will be master classes from top industry leaders, which I highly encourage our students to join. And then there will be mentorship one-on-ones. But before that, students have a career development template that they have to fill in. And they work with me and other mentors to understand where they want to be in the next 4 years, where they want to be in the next 10, the next 5, and the next year. And then when we're ready, when they have started building their own product or project, then we start to review that. And when they're ready, they start to have one-on-one mentorship meetings, a bit like in a startup incubator. And very much like in a startup incubator, at the end, they have demo day. So that's 2 weeks in person, first in Barcelona, but now we're expanding the cities. And there we're going to have a lot of corporate recruiters, a lot of investors coming in where our students will present when they are finally ready. So this is for the young ones. Then there's the executive program for people that have been, say, at Google or Meta or Accenture, and want to A, not be replaced by AI agents, and B, want to have an impactful career. And they're starting to think about legacy, right, at this point. So, okay, they had a corporate career, what are they leaving behind? How will there be continuity with what they did? And this is more senior in the sense that they can launch their own niche, they can look into professorships, they can look into going higher on the management ladder, all of these things. They can become ambassadors and work with us and kind of build their own niche. So what is new about this whole thing is the AI agent microcredentials. By the way, I don't know if people see me. Well, yeah, I'm just gonna take the risk. So there's a general certification program. What this does is it kind of gives you an overview, but like the MBA did in every industry. This gives you a general idea of how to use AI agents in tech, but in a very serious way. Whether you come from aerospace, defense, or I don't know, the medical field, this will give you an idea not only of what you can do, because you're going to have your own project and develop your own AI agent, but also the implications and the industry implications, the scientific implications of what's happening on the market. So it will give you a very broad overview of what's happening everywhere. And this can be something that I highly recommend, especially if you work for a generalist niche. For example, you're an investor and you want to know what's going on in tech. You are working for Accenture or McKinsey and you're a consultant, things like that, right? Then for biotech, medtech, and neurotech, this is kind of also my field. I've been blown away as a neuroscientist, and it's going to make me sound real. We used to stimulate the mouse eye with a cone made out of paper, which was very, very large. And this method of stimulation is from the 1950s, and we haven't changed it. We used to put this monitor in front of it, which had these black and white stripes. And we weren't really able to see much of a response, also because mice, many of them are almost blind, definitely not seeing as well as humans, very, very far away from it. And what we've seen now, even in the 2000s or even 10 years ago, people have started using AI to look during the experiment at the response in the brain, whether it's a strong response or not, and adapting the stimulation patterns and the stimulation type in order to get maximum response from the brain. So basically, the agent is learning from the neural responses on how to better interact with the brain, which is wild. Um, but it is definitely the future, and it is also where a field in which I can say that biologists traditionally weren't very comfortable with mathematics, or with computational models, also because a big part of it is medical, right? It's surgery, it's messy, so they don't want to worry about that. But now we have this unique opportunity to really decipher biological systems more than before. Biotech, obviously. So this one goes into what AI agents can do, for example, in the case of protein folding or understanding structures. We have many examples with, for example, using AI agents to understand the immune response and to modify different cell types, especially immune cell types, to respond either to cancerous cells or to respond to a virus and be better at attacking it. And there have been examples of many, many different types of cancers being destroyed, also with the help of AI tools. So AI tools in biotech have really exponentially improved the way we can look at the immune system, but also obviously genetics and molecular biology. So with genetics, we're getting very close to understanding any kind of patterns related to diseases and essentially eradicating those. Another ethical discussion, something for you to think about. And then finally, with medtech, a lot of surgery robots. As someone who has done them by hand, I have my own perspective, but it's also very interesting to see what this can do for the medical field. So not just on the hardware controlling side of AI agents, but also in the case of detecting tumors, for example, from X-ray images. Imagine a human doctor, right? Within 34 years of activity, they get to see what, a few thousands of these. You can train an AI agent now to learn from millions of them. So their accuracy is unfortunately incomparable with that of a human. Of course, again, the name Metapilot, you always have to have a human looking at this, just because the algorithms are not evolved enough to do this completely autonomously. But the combination of someone who is an expert, like a doctor, and using AI agents intelligently is very interesting. And it's definitely something that we want to have. And it's not something to be intimidated by. At the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal, right? This is a 4-month online course, that helps you understand in a very simple way what you should know. It allows you to play with those tools, many of them being free and very easy to use. And it helps you connect with the right people. So we kind of support approaching these things from the perspective of, hey, this is a new toy that you just need to learn how to play it. Or let's say it's a new card game, right? And you just need to learn the rules and you'll have a lot of fun with them. AI for smart cities. So this is another industry. Again, all these programs are accredited. So for smart cities, companies like Neon, for example, or companies that in general look at cognitive aspects of smart cities, consider that 10, 20 years ago, people were still printing out or had like printed paper and they were writing with a pen. They were trying to draw, hey, this building here needs to be changed in this and that way. Now we can have digital twins of entire cities and we can think where we need to optimize, for example, energy consumption, what financial impact it has, CO2, traffic jams, building vertiports or ports for drones and flying cars. All of these things that can be done essentially within a digital twin, within a simulation. They can be much easier to sell to governments or prospective clients. So this is something, if you're into that, if you want to work with Google Earth or Google Maps and geospatial things, I highly recommend it. And that doesn't mean that it replaces a real geology background. It just complements it very nicely if you already have knowledge of a Unity or Unreal programming, or geolocation, or all of these things. So this is something I'd recommend if you took that path and you're wondering where this is going. This will probably give you the answer and the connections you need. So for micro-credentials, for recruiters, and this is something we've been thinking about because obviously if millions of jobs or career pathways are going to open, recruitment and education and training is not going to be the same. It cannot be done in the old same way. You cannot have this lengthy administrative process for upskilling. You cannot have people sending faxes back and forth. You cannot be waiting for a year in order to get your MBA diploma in order to send it to your employer. I mean, these bottlenecks used to create more jobs, but at the end of the day, they are all soul-sucking jobs, right? What we want is to have systems that work. So when I mention AI agents for recruiters, many of them are probably already thinking about that. I mean, I mentioned the layoffs and the numbers, right? Again, 15,000, 25,000 overnight. How does a recruiter even deal with that, especially if it wasn't their decision? So considering that recruiters, HR people, their job is to get the best get the best talent in their company, their niche, but it's also to keep that talent happy and skilled. And at the end of the day, they want to have good reviews. So how do they do that, right? From recruitment, onboarding, offboarding, upskilling, talent management, all of these need to evolve very rapidly. There are thousands of AI tools, and there has to be something that helps them cut through the fog and really understand what they should be using and how, right? And there are so many layers to this: how they work with universities, how they work with training programs, how they work with coaches, how they train their top management versus how they train their programmers or their marketers. All of these are internal decisions to be made. But what we have seen with this MBA is there's actually quite a bit of alignment across the board in tech companies. So, and the answer is definitely not overnight layoffs. It is preparing and being proactive about things and upskilling when needed. So it can work. It just needs to be done in an organized way. And then digital marketing, same thing. Obviously, you've heard about agents for digital marketing. Nowadays, not even search engine optimization is the same, right? Because people don't search on Google anymore. Even we do our marketing using AI agents. And what matters is where people find you on ChatGPT. Are they able to find you if they want to? And all of these traditional techniques are changing. Back in the 90s, consider people used to, just stick a poster to a wall when they had a program or an event. And now we have social media, and we have different algorithms for this, different social media sites. And there's a lot of mathematics that goes into correct marketing and ethical marketing, of course. And that kind of brings us to the sales part, because the moment you start having leads through marketing, you have a funnel and you start to have to convert the leads. And this is also very AI powered. Even now you can have people calling your leads. Well, not people, AI agents calling your leads and being very, very effective and credible. And then you can scale those numbers to hundreds of thousands or millions very quickly. If you use the right tools at the right time. And again, the thing is, if you do go on ChatGPT and Google these things, it will give you answers, but there can be a very structured way of thinking about it, combined with meeting the right people at the right time. If you are in sales, you should be interacting with the right people. It really depends whether you work for an OEM or if you have your own startup, and what your niche is and all that. This makes a huge difference. So consider the wrong conversations can waste a lot of your time, or it can even take you in the wrong direction based on, taking the wrong advice. Conversely, if you take the right advice from the right person in the right niche, it can change the fate of your company or career. And then, so we were talking about recruiters, now we go to educators. Again, if you're a teacher, if you're a professor, if you're a coach, things have changed. People are not necessarily going directly now to traditional universities. A lot of them are starting to see the value in programs like this one. That said, we do partner with universities and we try to speed things up, and we try to optimize things. I mean, right now, it's very likely that if you do an MBA, someone will start to teach you about Excel and working in Excel manually to make a financial model. This doesn't exist in the market anymore. So the way we teach things has to adapt to the pace at which things are changing, right? That's why we said we work directly with companies. And then, there are also AI-driven learning agents nowadays, and not taking advantage of that is a big mistake because they're constantly indexing the newest information, which a human professor cannot do. Um, Adaptive tutoring systems, automation of curriculum, which is what we do in this program. Meaning, as I mentioned in that slide, if this company wants that kind of skill, a very particular skill, synthetic data generation from VR, um, and they said they will hire on that in the next few years, then we know how to include that within a month or so. That curriculum would be updated. In a traditional learning institution, this would take many years, and by that time, it would be already replaced by something else. So, not to criticize traditional institutions, we partner with them. We think that there's a lot of merit to traditional formal education. One of which is the in-person element, which is why in the PhD we actually have that person placed in a university and doing experiments and being in labs. But there's a lot of things that need to be modernized. And I would argue that if you're in academia, you should get this, at least this micro-credential, if not the MBA, because you need to be prepared for industry. And then something that I teach as well, so AI for virtual reality, spatial computing, digital twins. One application of digital twins I mentioned is smart cities, right? But there are many, many others. There are digital twins of cars, there are digital twins of entire systems, and now digital twins of everything in bio and medicine as well. So actually, this one is a great program if you're a scientist. This happened in my case. I learned most of VR, Unity programming in my PhD. Um, this is something to help you get into industry, and this is also how people can get into the AI neuroscience biometrics field. So we work with neurohaptics and biohaptics for our simulators, and we definitely recommend learning a bit about that. Because what this course does, if you're already curious, is it will just put everything kind of in perspective, and help you understand that this is not very complex. It's just a matter of what tools you use to achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve. And then finally, the AM certification program. So a bit of history. Metapilot Academy is based on Metapilot, the simulation platform and game. So Metapilot now features 10 eVTOL or flying car models from different companies. And it has a digital twin of the city of New York, but we're adding now more of them. And we generated synthetic data. We were one of the first games to generate synthetic data on Steam, and then sell that data either to the companies, which we did successfully, but also to governments. So UAE is actually our first country level client in a big project where we also brought our simulators and adapted them to help them visualize how the country would look like with vertiports and flying cars in a live demo to government members. And what we noticed is if you're able to really make a compelling story with this, which involves some level of simulation, some level of data, an ability to pitch and all of these things, it's actually quite easy to get along with people that are decision makers, because often these people are generalists. They're not focused on simulation. They don't have the same fascination for the topic that you have. So if you're able to present this in a way that is very clear to them on what exactly the benefit is of having your solution, you can be quite successful. So this is something you would learn here. What are the gaps in the market and how to talk to different players in order to make this work? There are many elements, right? With flying cars, one is the battery. The whole idea with flying cars is that they're like helicopters, but they have an electric battery. The problem is we haven't fully figured out an electric battery that would make these completely safe and able to operate for hours. So it's a bit like putting the carriage before the horse. We definitely need to figure that out. And then there's everything else, which is the legwork of building 500,000 vertiports, building around 500,000 working eVTOL models, drone models, and so on. So this is going to be a group effort, and it requires at least some overview on how this works. So this is the current curriculum of the MBA, and then I mentioned the deliverables. So there will be a 100-hour thesis for the MBA. For the micro-credentials, there is a much shorter thesis, and there is also like a live demo day. So people are going to present those. And there's a capstone project. There's the career progression form, which we track very carefully because this is a very good time to understand what is that you want to do. When you have the overview of everything that you could do, you start to get a feeling of, hey, I would actually enjoy that. This is the MBA fees, which are 1/5 of US traditional training programs, which is another point I think is important. Some partners, some traction, admission process, very simple. So discovery call, we get the grades and the diplomas, and then based on that, within 2 or 3 business days, the board makes a decision. And once we have that, you would be receiving an offer letter, very important. For many, many OEMs, they do offer learning benefits, and it's possible that they can even in full cover the program fees or the micro-learning fees. So we help people with that. We work directly with HR. And then for students, based on merit and need, we can come up with some kind of discount. The idea is the whole reason why we started the academy is so that anyone, anywhere can get this kind of technical training and can get this, into the workforce in a fair way, in a very meritocratic way. And then we can talk about other ways, like financial plans. There are scholarships worldwide that support the program. But generally, our aim is to reach 1 million Metapilots within the next decade. So that's it's quite ambitious, which makes us open. And if you're from a company, we do work with more tech companies. We're expanding, and a bit like we did with the VTOL field, we ended up having most companies on our platform. And then based on the number of employees that are enrolled in the program, the discount grows to a point where it's a ridiculous discount. And obviously the recruitment advantage is your talent is pre-trained, meaning that you have 1 year of data on that person, the way they did in the course, what they were able to build, what their niche interest is, the way they interact with other people, all of these things that can be very particular to the type of job that you're offering. You will never get that from a 30-minute interview or any amount of interviews, really. And then we actually customize the curriculum. So we work with HR partners, but also engineering leads, marketing leads to constantly adapt the curriculum, which is a kind of a unique thing to this. So that's the long story short. Wrapping it up here. Let me just see if I can access the website for you. So on the website, if you go, you'll find here the overview, the accreditations. A lot of people ask about those. And yes, if you're really, really curious, you can download the full brochure and learn about every single one of these, ASIC, the US ones, the European ones, British Council, all of these. And then the student reviews. And then you have here the programs, the different ones that you can just click on, and then just click on apply now. So now I'm in the apply part, and here just very quickly fill this in with your name. Why do you want to apply? And then the program that you want to apply for, can be MBA or certification, add your LinkedIn, and that's it. And then you'll be in our system, and someone from the team is going to reach out. I'm going to make this less philosophical than usual just because I want people to have a very clear overview on how this thing works. I think I gave some reasons why it's like this, but generally also to share our perspective on things, which is that there is no reason to be too concerned about the future of AI. It's just a matter of being confident and upskilling and actually seeing this as an opportunity for growth. And yeah, if anyone has any questions, I'd be more than happy to take them. But other than that, we are happy to talk to you, reach out to us, to members of the board of the academy. And yeah, thank you very much for your time.